When another day above ground, I see. I focusing on the positives. Because yesterday I was done.
Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. Our Friday edition continues, and now we're touching on something critical for our nation and for the region: the impact of learning challenges and community interventions. Joining us this morning in studio is Maxine Williams, Vice President of Accessibility and Engagement at Meta. We also have Isaiah Alexander, Social Worker and Program Coordinator of the Cotton Tree Foundation, and Chelcie Rollock, Forensic Psychologist. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us on this beautifully rainy Friday morning. We appreciate it, but again, a critical conversation that we do need to cover, and I wish we had more time. So let's dive straight into the most important thing we're going to be talking about this morning: identifying what our problem is and what we can do, Maxine.
Yeah, well, the problem that we have been focused on is how society is impacted when we don't give everyone the opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
We know for a fact that 25% of people in the world are people with some disability. And if we look into learning disabilities, we've seen, for instance, that in schools in Trinidad, teachers report that 33% of children need some kind of help.
Right.
We can't get them help if we don't know what they need. And the downstream impact of people not learning is we see in society people being unproductive, and in worst case scenarios, turning to occupations, occupying their time with things that are not healthy or safe for society. So we know, for instance, that a large percentage of the population of people who are in prisons are people who haven't had more than a primary school education. What gets in the way of that is often that something about the way you learn is different from the way that you're being taught. You may have dyslexia, autism, ADHD, and their whole auditory processing, all kinds of things. But you're seen as stubborn, don't want to learn, hard-headed, and then left behind. So what we want to do is to, first of all, encourage people to have a different mindset, to see these children not as people who are choosing not to learn, because we don't think human beings choose not to learn. Yeah. It's part of our nature that we want to, but as people who something may be getting in the way of, and try to identify what that is, and then get an intervention to address that so that more people can learn and be productive, have satisfying lives themselves, and society benefits when more people are productive as opposed to destructive.
And that's something that many people don't think about, the downstream when it comes to society and how society can change. So let's now come to you, Chelcie. Good morning again. Let's speak about some of the assessments and what you've seen in society. What Maxine would have just referenced there are things that we perhaps witness the end result of. Is this something that you see a lot of?
It is something that I see a lot of. After having worked particularly with the prison population, I noticed that a lot of them have reading difficulties. Some of them aren't able to read at all. And that is due to, like Maxine said, them falling between the cracks. And this is because of a number of reasons, such as learning disorders, ADHD, autism. And learning disorders go all the way down to like hearing problems, reading problems, and therefore they're not able to write. And there's also emotional ramifications to that, where you feel some sort of insecurity about yourself because you're not able to keep up in class and because your teachers are therefore not helping you. So the teachers are going at a rate, you are not following along, which therefore leads to like a feeling of inferiority, which leads to you not feeling supported and you looking for the support elsewhere, which ends up not being in the best case scenario.
As you would have mentioned, occupations. Isaiah, good morning again. So one of the things that Maxine was just talking about and Chelcie mentioned was speaking about what's happening with the more adult sphere. But I know with the Cotton Tree Foundation, you're starting at the beginning. Share with us what's going on.
Yes, so at the Cotton Tree Foundation, what we do is we focus on cultivating change via the vehicle of education. And with that being said, we have a wide array of programs. One of our core programs is the Service Learning Program. This is in which we would provide assessments to determine if the child does in fact indeed has a learning disorder or learning disability. So what we do is we basically do assessments on children to identify these issues with individualized self-care plans to ensure, effective outcomes for these children. What I would say is it depends heavily on the parental involvement because you actually need to get the child assessed. There is no intervention without assessment, right? There actually is a lot of available resources. There is student support services via the Ministry of Education, and there are also like private sectors you could go to, Trinidad and Tobago Association of Psychologists where you could decide to go private. And I know Maxine would also touch on issues because there is a resource there being available.
Yeah, let's talk about the role of
So
issues.
once you get, the first thing is the mindset, right?
Right.
To approach this difficulty as something that is not willful, but maybe needs some support. So that's what we need from the parents. Then how you get assessed is the next issue. You could go to the Ministry of Education, where there is a department that supports the assessments. You could go private through psychologists, but you need a psychoeducational assessment to know what was wrong. Then what you do about it is you develop a learning plan. Issues comes into the story because Issues happens to be a learning center which specializes in teaching children with special needs. But it is only one in Trinidad. Similarly, when we talk about the Cotton Tree Foundation and the service learning program, that's one and it's small. We need more people to invest, essentially, to make sure we have more psychologists, we get more of these assessments done, and then where you go for your support. So Issues is launching a scholarship fund. The deadline for application is July 7th. And it is something which, in partnership with the parents, we hope to allow more children access to the schools. It costs money.
Yeah.
Once you get your educational report, either through the ministry or privately, you can use that to access funds from the Ministry of Education to support a child going to a special needs school. So it all kind of comes together from identifying there's an issue, getting the report, the assessment done. You can take that, you can get some funds there. Issues now has a scholarship fund. But if you're all over Trinidad, Issues is in North,
Right.
You may not have an Issues there. Then you're working with your school with the plan to help the teachers know what you need and to try to adjust your learning in order for that particular child to learn the way they need to learn.
And as you mentioned, working with the school, of course, when you mention Issues, as we know, that is dedicated to. But when
Correct.
it comes to being outside of that realm, having that access, if you don't, do you see that reciprocity from community, from teachers to work together? In fact, this can be open, so we'll come to you,
So
Chelcie.
there are some recommendations. I work with the Cotton Tree as well, that we provide to both teachers and parents to help the child learn at their own pace. And it's small, simple things such as putting post-its of words across the house or across your room to enhance sight learning. So you'd be able to see a word and immediately know what that word sounds like and what that word means. And something in school that we also do is promote repetition of instructions and simplified instructions, which will then help the child understand what is being asked of them. Otherwise, again, like I said, they're going to remain lost in the classroom. So it's simple instructions, also concessions for examinations, asking for extra time, asking for a separate room for them to have little to no distractions to complete formal examinations.
And as you mentioned, that one particularly is something that will sticks out to me as well, because many people don't know that this is available. They just think that they automatically have to adhere to this time, and whatever happens, happens. We don't have that much time left, but I would love to get closing comments from each of you. So I'm going to start with you, Chelcie.
Yeah, so I just want to point out that early identification of stuff like this, as well as access to quality care and quality education, is very important in order to allow for individuals to succeed in the society that we currently live in.
Yeah, definitely. Isaiah?
So I would say that I believe children are champions, and they are pretty much more resilient than we think. And what they really need is they just need someone to be there at their side and to support them in a productive and positive way. And I think by having awareness of these learning difficulties and being able to access these resources, that's the perfect way to go.
It's Maxine.
Love your children more. Assume the best of them. If we don't support them, we end up prosecuting them.
Yeah.
And we all pay for that.
Yeah.
Wow. Powerful, all three of you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's a great conversation, and a conversation that you need to get on board with the impact of learning challenges and community interventions. For more information, you can go onto the Cotton Tree website. You can also check out ishelearningcenter.com and send an email to info@thecottontree.org. This is the Now Morning Show. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this break.
Every day you're blessing me.